E3 is huge. Hello, Little Miss states the obvious. We're talking big names, big games, big buzz, and even bigger flubs. Yes, as with any operation of this scale, something is bound to go wrong somewhere.
Interfaces are evolving at all times, and I am talking right now.
I'm sure you're already picturing some doozies from E3's past right now. How in the heck can these be avoided, though? Accidents happen, it's the way of the world, sod's law. Well, we think video games could have the answer, so here is a list of lessons we think E3 presenters can learn from video games themselves. And for the sensitive among you, there will be spoilers for all of these. Let's get going.
What's our next target?
Many presenters have to deal with unruly technology in the middle of a showcase. But at least they can play inside to remind themselves how badly a demonstration can really go. Unlike the products on show at E3, it isn't exactly clear what Inside's experiment is. You journey through a disjointed world. It paints a totalitarian picture, tinged in science fiction, and ultimately leads you to some sort of testing facility. Inside, a giant water tank floats a meaty lump composed of human bodies. You become one with this glob. Take control and wreak havoc upon the scientists and their facility. Glass shatters, walls crumble, and workers are squashed by the monstrosity as it breaks for the sea, where I can only imagine the creature aims to soothe its aching joints and maybe enjoy an ice cream. Admittedly, it's hard to imagine a, say, Assassin's Creed demo going as horribly wrong as this. I guess someone could twist their ankle during a Just Dance preview, but that's about as grim and body horror that E3's going to get. Probably a good thing?
E3 is all about opulence and boasting. A chance for one executive to say to another, "My budget's bigger than your budget," but beware the hubris of going overboard. Take a lesson from the Paris stage in Hitman. It's a literal stage for starters, a catwalk where the great and good are gathered to watch a more fashionable baldy strut his stuff. Fashion executive Viktor Novikov seems to know how to put on a show, hanging enough light bulbs above his catwalk to keep Homebase in stock for a year. Think of the energy waste. He deserves murdering for that, if nothing else. Of course, Agent 47, being the creative sort, manages to bring the house down, quite literally, on Novikov's head. One click of the crowbar is all it takes to drop several tons of glass onto the target below. 100-watt light bulbs? More like 100 what the hell just happened light bulbs. So the next time you decide to, say, hang a massive sports car above a crowd of Xbox fans, maybe ask yourself, could there be a bald man with an axe to grind? Time to think again.
The key to a successful conference is inviting a crowd who be on your side, or paying a crowd of professional whoopers. Leave the guest list open and you run the risk of repeating Dishonored 2's disastrous opening celebration. At the start of the game, you get to enjoy a whole 5 minutes of royal treatment as Emily Coldwin. You're attending a remembrance ceremony for her mother, and it's basically got everything you want from a party. Elaborate hats, wall-to-wall flowers. All she has to do is put on her signet ring and think sad thoughts about her mum and the job's done. But oh look! Someone decided to invite the weird duke with the giant robot bodyguards. It's not suspicious at all. Alarm bells further ring when you hear he's voiced by Vincent D'Onofrio.
Your Imperial Majesty and Royal Protector Corvo Attano.
If Daredevil's Wilson Fisk himself doesn't say, "Warning," I don't know what does. Worse still, the Duke has decided to invite the lost sister of the deceased queen just in time to depose Emily from the throne, and she's a mad witch to boot. This is like when you have a house party and a friend of a friend invites a friend who then invites a witch who's pretending to be your dead aunt. As a side tip to this, if your party is crashed, make sure your event has better security than Corvo Attano. He chops off a few body parts and then gets his sword stuck in said immortal witch. Then, depending on who you play as, either he or Emily gets turned into stone. If this happens to your company CEO at your E3 presentation, expect a trip to HR.
This is the Los Angeles Convention Center, home to E3. It was built in 1969 and E3 itself started in 1995, which is why it's really important that you don't try to attend E3 any earlier than that. Visit Los Angeles in 1947, courtesy of L.A. Noire, and you'll find a whole load of nothing where the convention center should be. Okay, so the in-game map doesn't quite extend to the convention center's exact location on South Figueroa Street, But this is only one block away, and you can clearly see that there are no giant posters for Fallout 76. Technically, Cole Phelps is standing where LA Live should be, which is where all the visitors go to eat when the show closes every day. In 1947, there's just one small bakery, which is going to mess up my keto diet. Thanks, 1947. You'll have slightly more luck if you zip up to South Broadway, which is home to the Orpheum Theatre, which is where Ubisoft hold their yearly conference. The Orpheum is in LA Noire, but unfortunately you can't go inside to see a new Rayman game or whatever. Ubisoft founder Yves Guillemot won't be born for another 13 years, and a world without Yves Guillemot is a world I don't care to live in, thank you very much. So if you do have a game to show at E3, make sure you arrive in the right year. I really shouldn't have to tell you this stuff.
My Lord Inquisitor.
Audience approval matters, especially at E3. No one understands this better than the Inquisitor of Dragon Age Inquisition. In the mission Wicked Eyes and Wicked Hearts, they have to wade through the pit of snakes that is the royal court and schmooze his or her way to political ends. A ball is being held at the Winter Palace in L.A, and it's the perfect place to sneakily secure negotiations for the next ruler. The whole party is governed by court approval, which is kind of like a posh person's version of the likes and dislikes under a YouTube video. Blunder through social interactions or speak too directly to important guests, and you'll start getting the downvotes. Let approval drop to 0 and the court will toss you out of the party altogether. Thankfully, this doesn't happen on YouTube. Although, please don't risk it by hitting the down thumb. The odds may even be stacked against you from the start. Depending on what class you choose, the court may disapprove of you on sight. In E3 terms, I like to call this the Wii Music effect. It's a brilliant mission, swapping the traditional combat for a battle of manners. There are areas of the palace you can't visit without sapping your approval, and there are even bonus points for arriving fashionably late to a grand ball. Approval in the Winter Palace is much like a dance, and the steps have to be learned quickly. I don't think an E3 audience has ever been this scary.
You ever wonder what the bottom of an Avatar shoe looks like? Well, bam! There it is.
Your worst E3 nightmare is when your billion-pound game decides to throw a hissy fit just as you introduce it to the world. I wonder if the creators of the Magic Circle experience this for real, as the game captures the moment in all its horror. You see, the Magic Circle is all about finishing a half-finished game. You explore a glitchy world, altering code to try and make sense of the mess. The story culminates with the game being shown off at a famous gaming conference called E4. I see what they did there. For story reasons too complicated to explain here, you have to sabotage the demo from the inside and humiliate its creator live on stage. How you do it is up to you. You can modify guards so that they murder each other with laser fire before the demo even begins. You can spawn space parasites that turns a narrative adventure into a live combat demo.
Perhaps you should slay any more of those we encounter.
But the weirdest stuff is reserved for the baby that the heroine is meant to discover at the end of the mission. With a couple of vindictive tweaks, you can turn it into a laser-shooting helicopter, and it kinda deflates the action. I guess the lesson to be learned here is to keep your designers happy, or pre-record your demo, or just avoid putting helicopter babies in your game.
Listen, this wasn't supposed to happen. This isn't my story.
I figured I could just kind of like act out the gameplay.
Lesson 7, don't lose your nerve. If gremlins don't get into code, there's always the chance that good old-fashioned human nerves will strike. Who could forget Unravel's reveal, where a visibly shaking Martin Celine showed off his game? But for a masterclass in managing stage fright, I recommend, well, Stage Fright. It's a horror rhythm game, yes, that old chestnut, about a young piano prodigy taking to the stage to perform a variety of musical numbers to a live audience. Not only must she grapple with crippling anxiety, but something else lurking out there in the music hall. Think Guitar Hero, but instead of a few bum notes or boos from the crowd, your mistakes and nerves not only affect visuals and play, but draw the attention of a horrifying, grudge-like ghost. What's the deal with this? Maybe she died in a piano-related accident. Anyway, if you can survive this, you can survive any crowd. Of course, in the case of Martin and his woolly friend, his nerves were a rare moment of human vulnerability, which actually helped convey the heartfelt message of his game better than a trailer ever could. No ghosties for him.
Thank you.
We would have been so good together.
Our final lesson is pretty self-explanatory. When you are on stage at E3, Do not chop off any heads. People won't remember the cool DLC plans you just announced. They'll only remember the guy who got his head chopped off. Do I really need to explain this?
So there we have it, a video game how-to guide to good conferencing, beautifully demonstrated by meat monsters, time travel and piano recitals. What games do you think could teach publishers a lesson in presentation? Let us know. If you'd like to hear more from Rock Paper Shotgun, Matthew or I, please feel free to subscribe, but remember, the algorithm overlords are fickle indeed. So you'll need to click the little notifications bell if you want to be updated on our video making exploits. Thank you for watching. We'll see you all through next week with more E3 fun. Bye!